You know, when Dr. Snowden was thanking everyone, the truth is we could spend our 25 minutes each just thanking you. As I look out in the crowd, all the relationships that we have built because we all have that common interest in what we're doing here in our community, growing our children, growing this community. And it does my heart good to the point where I even have a little bit of shivers knowing that I'm speaking to a group of people who build for this community. And I so much appreciate you. And I don't know that this is unique, but it's special that we all work together here in this community. And I want to thank all of you for that. As part of that, I specifically want to introduce and thank our Board of Education. We have 7 of our board members here today. Nancy Garrett, our board chair, is here. If you all would just wave to everyone. Jenna Priya, Sheila Cleveland are here as well. Rick Wimberly, Josh Brown, Dan Cash, and Jay Galbraith are here. So thank you all for being here. And Matt Largent, of course, spoke to this earlier, thanking the school boards. Elected officials, thank you so much for leading in this challenging time this last year and a half. As I get started, I want to let you know our communications department put together this slideshow, and the first 3 or 4 slides are photos. So as I talk, I would invite you to just pick out something, just kind of a neat photo as we discuss this. So our vision statement is that Williamson County Schools will provide a supportive environment where students are challenged to pursue excellence in academics, athletics, and the arts. And we have some photos here just to get started to give evidences of academics, athletics, and the arts at our elementary, middle, and high schools. I am so proud of that. As I speak to this, I'm going to start with some growth issues that we've experienced. We're going to talk about extracurriculars briefly, and then we're going to hit the heart of that instruction as I go through my PowerPoint presentation. So I'm kind of flipping Dr. Snowden's order as we go through there, and we'll end in all those points of pride for instruction for our students. You notice there's ROTC there. I want to thank Franklin High School's ROTC Color Guard for coming with us, and of course Franklin Special School District had our national anthem, so thank you guys for that. You notice the buses out front if you came in. They represented our schools. We're so proud of everything our students are doing. So with that, let's talk about growth. We have a little over 42,000 students. Williamson County Schools is the largest it's ever been. 2 years ago, when the governor announced in the spring that schools across the state needed to close, basically no one went to school on campus statewide that 4th quarter, spring 2 years ago. Public schools across the state and really across the nation dropped in enrollment, and we were no different. We dropped in enrollment, and we actually projected that it would be a 2 to 3 year period where we grew back to where we were. We have already exceeded that and more. We were at about 39,000 and change 2 years ago. We're at 42,000 now. And you see that number, growth of 1,800 students into first month last year to into first month this year. The actual number is 1,869 new students. So we designed our new high schools for somewhere around 1,800 students. This year we grew by a high school. It's incredible, y'all, how fast we're growing. Now, they weren't all high school students, right? They're spread out across the county, and we're really experiencing that growth. During that time, the governor, said we're not taking tests, we're not taking end-of-course tests, we're not taking TCAP, all those measures that the state administers. And it's really been incredible how we've come back related to that. So over the course of that, we have grown with a couple of schools. We have 2 new online schools that we introduced this past year, largely because of the pandemic. Our strategic plan called for an online school down the road, but we sped that process up. We projected that we were going to provide devices to our students strategically in a few years. The pandemic sped that process up. So those of you who have students in Williamson County schools, you know your child has a device. Those are tools. Those aren't the end-all be-all. The end-all be-all is that relationship between teachers and our students. But we continued to grow. As part of that, I want to give you guys perspective on where we are with our teachers. We have about 3,300 teachers. As part of that growth, y'all, we're struggling with staffing. And those of you who are in business, I'm guessing if I asked you, you could raise your hand as well on the staffing struggle you're experiencing. Tennessee needs to be and must be and is an importer of teachers right now. And what I mean by that is our colleges are not producing enough teachers to fulfill the demands, to fill the numbers of the needs we have for teachers. So we actually recruit beyond our state. We recruit in Ohio, we recruit in Pennsylvania. We go beyond Middle Tennessee to recruit. I'm glad Tennessee Tech is here. I know you all have a School of Education. It is a real challenge for the colleges. The colleges are working together with the State Department of Education and with locals like us to try to grow teachers. With respect to us, we are actually at this moment, you see the 3,300, we're short 18 elementary school teachers as we stand here today. We are short 8 middle school teachers and we are short 14 high school teachers. Now think about your staffing. If you're at 90, 95% staffing, that sounds okay, but when you visualize that as actual teachers missing, 18 elementary school teachers, which is traditionally not an issue for us, it's a real challenge. So I wanted you as business leaders to know that's one of the challenges we're facing. I have related to that our starting teacher salary, $40,150. So visualize that with a starting teacher in housing here. The market is changing, y'all. Those of you who are business leaders here know that market is changing. I'll speak to this in a little bit, but government doesn't respond super quickly to market changes because of our budgeting structure and because of this tax structure. But I want you to know that those are challenges we're facing. With that, we compete. We're bringing in some of the best teachers, those teachers who are open to growth, and we are so proud of our teachers. But I felt like it was important for you to know that. And I know county government is feeling this as well. I've spoken with Mayor Anderson. They were a few hundred employees short. I got to ask, I mentioned the idea of raising your hand. How many of you as business leaders are short in staffing? Yeah, it's a lot. And so it's nothing new for this community. But it's a really nice challenge to have, truthfully, because we are growing, because people are coming because they want to be here. And I'll speak to that in just a little bit about why people want to be here. So let me give you one other example related to that and put a call out for those of you who might know someone who's looking to work. We have about 900 special education teachers assistants across the district. They give direct services to our students with disabilities. We're about 75 to 80 short on that, and that's a big number. One of the reasons that we're a little short is because we have been working on a Grow Your Own program, where some of our teachers assistants come in and we work with local colleges, and they do those few extra classes so that they can get their teacher's license and become special education teachers. So in a strange kind of way, we're excited about that challenge we have with special education teachers assistants, because we have been able to fill some of that gap with teachers with our special education teachers assistants. One other market condition, since this is a group of business leaders, I think it's important for you to hear. We have seen that there's a segment of our workforce who didn't really need to work, and they chose to take a break during COVID. Many of those haven't come back. So I am curious, I see some nods in the audience. I am curious if you have techniques that you have been able to use to bring those folks back who didn't need to work but want to, share them with us. I think it's important for our community to rise up and work back together to bring those folks back to continue the great success that we've had here in Williamson County. So I want to thank the county. I want to thank the county for funding. How many of you have seen the news reports about the state reviewing BEP? So BEP is the basic education program for the state of Tennessee and how the state funds us. They are starting on a review of that over these next few months. They've set up an oversight committee to look at funding, and they have established 18 different subcommittees to work on a portion of the issues related to the complexity of BEP. I happen to be on one subcommittee where we're going to be representing municipal, suburban, and high-growth school districts in that discussion. But I want you to know the reality for Williamson County. I don't know if you can see those of you in the back. Our total budget is funded 64% from county government. You support public education here in Williamson County. That is very different from a lot of the state. The state structure is basically a Robin Hood effect, where those who have the capacity to fund are left with that responsibility to fund. And as a result, when you think about the basic education program of the state, our county leaders say, for us, it's twice what you think is basic. And I am so proud of our county government for funding. So what does that mean for boots on the ground? That means arts, that means music, that means a nurse in every school building, and maybe one more if students need those extra procedures over the course of the day. That means advanced placement classes in high schools. That means college and career technical programs in our high schools. It means the complexity of all those course offerings that your children deserve as they grow and develop. And so I want to specifically thank our county leaders for that. It's different here, y'all. It is different. And I'm going to speak to that just a little bit more when we talk about growth, when we talk about that student growth as well. So I got to tell you a story before we speak to extracurriculars. I mentioned the 1,869 student growth that we've had. Dr. Snowden mentioned learning loss, and we have experienced all those issues. With that 1,869 student group come a lot of students from other places. We have seen that learning loss, Dr. Snowden, largely from communities who have lost their students who have come here in the past year. Last year during COVID, we fought hard on a daily basis to keep students in school, in the classroom. Quarantines just ate us up. I'm going to be tempted to ask how many of you had a child who experienced quarantine, but I won't. It was tough, but we fought on a daily basis to keep students in school. With those new students coming in, we do screeners to see where a student is and their ability to receive that grade level instruction. We have seen a great increase this year in students performing on those screeners below the level that they are ready to receive the grade level instruction. And we know that that's directly related to those students in other parts of the country who didn't get on-campus school instruction. And we're working on it. We are intervening with those students, those new students who are coming in, to catch them up to grade level instruction. And we are really pleased with where our teachers are going, but that's one of the challenges that we've faced because we've been able to keep our students on campus and so many other parts of the country haven't. Y'all, we have it good here. Sometimes it's easy to forget that if you live in in your little world. So we're really proud of that. So we talked about academics, athletics, and the arts. I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to talk about extracurricular activities. Last year we had 21 TSSAA state championships. Already this fall, we have 4 at the high school level and 6 at the middle school level. Just this year, our middle school, all our middle schools joined the Tennessee Middle School Athletics Association. And the joke was that, that we were going to become either the SEC or the ACC of middle school. And I know one of the questions at one of our board meetings was, well, which one are we? And I'll let you decide. I think the jury's still out, but we are so proud of our middle school students, and we're excited to be participating in the Tennessee Middle School Athletics Association. But I want to speak to extracurriculars just briefly. There's research out there that really dates back to the start in the 90s, and it's been going on for the last 30 years. And researchers have looked at the question of what kind of impact do extracurricular activities, what kind of impact does that have on students? And they reached three main conclusions about the impact of extracurricular activities on students. Number one, students are more engaged with school as a whole if they're participating in an extracurricular activity. To put it bluntly, they show up. They go to school at a higher rate than students who aren't participating in extracurricular activities. Number two, they express a higher degree of happiness, of contentedness with their life if they are participating in extracurricular activities. And a third conclusion that this research has landed on is that those students aspire at a higher rate to go beyond where they are, to look to the next step, to look to post-secondary education if they are participating in extracurricular activities. And when we say in our vision statement, academics, athletics, and the arts, that's what we're talking about. We give excellent academic instruction, but we also encourage that participation in athletics and the arts so that those students can build themselves as a whole person. And I want to also speak briefly to students with disabilities, our special education program. Those who came before us made a decision decades ago that we were going to do it right when it came to serving students with disabilities. 30, 40 years ago, a bunch of federal laws were passed, and our folks were engaged at the federal level in planning for what that was to look like and how we got past what we saw 50, 80, 100 years ago in serving children with disabilities, where students were coming into the school. And we knew that having students with disabilities participate with their peers as much as possible in the general education classroom was the right thing to do, and it was good for students with disabilities. We will occasionally show you data that shows our students with disabilities outperforming the state average for students without disabilities. That happens from time to time. But the reality is, for serving students with disabilities, it's about personal service. It's about finding what's right for that child with that child's disabilities. And we continue to do it right. And we are a magnet for folks who have children who need those services because we do it right. And it's expensive, but our commission and our board knows it's worth it. It's worth doing the right thing for those students. So you might see a child with a disability participating as a cheerleader. Those kinds of things do my heart good when I see. So when I speak to extracurricular activities, I'm speaking to everybody. I'm speaking to all students, the work we do. You know, Dr. Snowden talked about RTI-2B, he talked about mental health. And when you're speaking, we're speaking the same language. We're going through some of those same processes to serve our students where they are. You know, you've heard, it seems like every generation laments that parents don't take care of their children like they ought to. And there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to that. But we work with our parents and with our children to give them the best we possibly can. So that's a little bit of WCS by the numbers. Let me speak to instruction. And I don't know if you can read that based on where you are, but this year we had 72 National Merit semifinalists. National Merit is basically the highest award a student can get based on how well they do on the PSAT. Boots on the ground means scholarship numbers for students. we had 72. Did I say 71? 72. 72 National Merit Scholarships. Our highest ever was 51. We had an incredible jump from one year to the other. And let me give you kind of a broad explanation of why and then do a little drill down. The broad explanation of why is because we compete nationally. There are a fixed number of national merit semifinalists that this institution nationwide sets up. A fixed number. We did it right last year. We fought that battle and kept students on campus. And we went from 51 the prior year to 72 this year because we're competing nationally. Because we did it right, our students are reaping the benefits of those higher numbers. I don't know what the future holds, but what I know this past year is we did it right. So let me give you some numbers related to Tennessee. 215 total Tennessee students were named National Merit semifinalists, 215 in Tennessee. We have 72 of those. Pull your calculator on your phone out. That's over a third. Y'all, we had over a third of Tennessee's National Merit semifinalists. I'm so proud of those students. Some of those students went to Franklin Special School District. The work we're doing, I heard an extra clap from a former FSSD parent. I love that. The work that we're doing and giving those students opportunities is pretty incredible. I also want to mention that 4% of Tennessee, I got to step back. I didn't mention this. National Merit, these numbers, that's not just public school students. That's all private school students, that's homeschool students as well. 215 total, public, private, homeschool in Tennessee. Williamson County Public Schools represent a third of them. Have I said it enough? I'm proud of it, y'all. It's incredible. And we're competing nationally. Have I said that? Okay. All right. So Dr. Snowden mentioned his reward schools. About half of your schools were reward schools. Likewise, about half of our schools were reward schools as well. That's a designation that the Tennessee Department of Education establishes based on a formula that largely is derived from performance and growth. How well your students did and how well they grew compared to where they were before. And 24 of our schools were named reward schools from the state of Tennessee. That's the largest number statewide of any school district. Carol, 5 minutes? Oh my goodness, 5 minutes. We're on track. We're on track. I swear we're on track. We represent 4% of the total public student body in Tennessee. I'm going to let you do the math on this. There are 188 total reward schools in the state of Tennessee this year. We have 24 of them. You have 5. Is that right? So just do the math on that. Williamson County is doing it, y'all. We are doing it right with performance and growth for our schools. And let me tell you how we do it. All of us were students. All of us have been in schools somehow, some way, at some point in our lives. I want you to know that the teachers do a lot more than the students know they do. Our teachers spend a ton of time planning. They work with each other as teams. In your business, I think you've learned you can't do it on your own. You have to work as a team. Our teachers are doing that. They meet, they plan, they look at Tennessee standards, they drill down, they assess/test on standards, and then when they recognize their student might not have mastered a particular standard, they go to their colleague and say, I see that your child mastered that standard, but I'm struggling with this. They work together to grow their students as a team. Teachers' work is professionalized. Teachers' work is systematic and it's team-driven. We constantly hear from our teachers they need more time to work together so that they can plan to serve their students. And it goes to those Tennessee standards and drilling down to make sure we do right by our students. It goes to the next level. What about the students who have mastered it? What do we do then? And push them even further. And it goes to those students with disabilities who I mentioned before. What do we do to help those students grow as much as they possibly can given where they are? I'm so proud of our teachers and the professional work they're doing. That's how they do it. What you might have seen when you were in school some blank number of years ago is very different with the depth of the work that our teachers are doing as a team. All right, real quickly, I'm going to hit some growth issues that you all see. Dr. Snowden mentioned some of their growth points. We are in finishing up the third stage of a four-phase plan to put artificial turf on all our fields. That's driven largely by extracurricular activities. Girls soccer occurs at the same time that football occurs. There's a lot of use of our fields. Lacrosse is coming for TSSAA. They're gonna bring lacrosse in under their umbrella, and we're pretty good at that right now. I won't get into the details, but we're going to continue to grow that. Page Middle expansion has been finished. Page High is under expansion. I know our architects are here. There you are. Thank you guys for the work you're doing related to that. Page High School is going from a 1,200 student school to a 2,000 student school. That area is growing. We are expanding our high school campuses, largely because we can and because it's cheaper. I'm just going to be blunt. And the commission is funding that. Currently, Ravenwood and Summit have been funded by the county commission to expand those schools by about 400 student capacity. Nolensville and Centennial are on the capital plan. I'll miss one, but Franklin, Independence, on down the line have already had some expansions related to that. Fairview's on the horizon. We hear stories about Fairview growing as well. A lot of developments in planning in Fairview as well. We have a new elementary school planned in Spring Hill and another one in Triune. They're both scheduled to open in 2023. We continue to grow. Wilkes Lane in Spring Hill, a little bit south of Highway 96 in the Triune-Arrington area. Brentwood Middle replacement is scheduled to a phase system to finally complete in fall of 2025. We're going to keep our students on the campus while we're doing the construction work. So that will be a phased approach for Brentwood Middle School. Anybody been in Brentwood Middle School? It feels like 1970. It feels like, but I tell you, it's some of the best instruction you'll find in the entire nation. All right. So here's our challenges. Staffing, I alluded to that. Next, getting students new to the district at or above grade level. I mentioned that already. I want to briefly mention RTI-2B. Behavior, we have found that some students who've come from other states don't recognize the emphasis on instruction and how behavior needs to be in the school if you're going to grow. And so we've been able to work with those new students about what it means to be in a place where you're learning. And we're so proud of the work our folks are doing related to that. Food supply chain. Those of you in business, you know, I mean, it's a daily fight to make sure we literally have enough food in the cafeteria to meet the needs because trucking. I know some of your businesses experience that. Finally, national issues. I wish I could tell this story, but the short version is civility nationwide has lost us somewhat, somehow. We heard when the chamber went last week to the Dallas area to study growth from an executive with an airline. They're experiencing a lack of civility in those direct relationships with the folks they're serving. We're seeing the same thing. It's tough right now. High-performing school districts are facing the same challenges across the nation with different faces. And I got to be blunt, we're not teaching critical race theory, if you guys have heard that. Critical race theory is designed, as it's defined by those who are asking, it's designed to make someone feel guilty, in essence, as a result of their race. We're not, but what we are doing is finding ways to help all our students feel safer in their school. Dr. Snowden alluded to it. We're working on the same items. I've had many conversations with our students who have in essence said there were many times where they were afraid to report bullying behaviors on the basis of race, on the basis of sex, on the basis of religion, because they weren't confident that we were going to do anything about it. That strikes me hard. We're continuing to have those conversations. We've gotten professional help so that we could strategically plan to increase our students' feeling of safety in our buildings. I don't have time to talk about that now, but oh my goodness, that is important, y'all. Every student deserves to feel safe in our buildings, and we're working on that. Finally, well, let me tell you what I'm asking of you. Thank your teachers. Thank your staff. If you find a moment, a particular thing that they did for your child, thank them. They need that. We all need that support. I've got so many stories related to just that one little thank you making a difference. Anyone who served someone directly got exhausted over the course of COVID. We heard it, we've seen it in the airlines with the stories. It's happening with teachers. Those of you who have employees who do direct customer service, have you not heard that as well? Build them up. I ask you to build your teachers up when you get that opportunity. It's an incredible profession. Advocate for public schools. Matt, thank you so much for speaking to public schools so often. We're doing it right, we're doing it well, and because of that, our community is succeeding. And finally, Dr. Snowden mentioned it, be nice. We didn't quite table or shelve that concept a couple of years ago, but sometimes it feels like we did. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. Let's be nice to each other. And that's it.